everyone. Welcome back to Black Voices for Trump Real Talk Online. I'm Paris Denard, RNC Communication Advisor for Black Media Affairs and a proud Black Voices for Trump Advisory Board member. Joining me tonight is the co-chair of the Black Voices for Trump Advisory Board, Stacey Washington, Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones, and civil rights attorney and talk radio host Leo Terrell. Thank all of you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
This week, one of the most anticlimactic political announcements was made. In a speech that was consumed with intentional lies about President Trump, Joe Biden chose far-left California Senator Kamala Harris as his pick for vice president. Before we take a deeper dive into Kamala Harris, let's play this clip.
Kamala Harris ran for president by rushing to the radical left, embracing Bernie's plan for socialized medicine, calling for trillions in new taxes, attacking Joe Biden for racist policies. Voters rejected Harris. They smartly spotted a phony. But not Joe Biden. He's not that smart. Biden calls himself a transition candidate. He is handing over the reins to Kamala while they jointly embrace the radical left. Slow Joe and phony Kamala. Perfect together. Wrong for America.
Stacey, what do you think about Joe Biden's pick? Do you think this is detrimental for him come November?
So, Paris, I thought it was interesting because I had just been on another program talking about the probability of it being Susan Rice. So I'm on there, I'm discussing it. I'm really like unpacking this reality. It's going to be Susan Rice. It's going to be Susan Rice. And then they announced Kamala. And so the first thing I thought was she told him that he liked segregationists. She inferred that he was a racist. She said, I don't think you're a racist, but, and then she basically launched off into how he was a racist for opposing busing back in the day. She has really leveled some serious allegations against him, Paris, and that calls to me and her integrity into question. Her integrity is called into question because she simply said when she was against him, running against him as, you know, both of them seeking the presidential nomination, you're not good enough for Americans. You have a very spurious racial background. Your history with blacks in America has been called into question. Women have made allegations against you. In other words, he was unfit for office. But then when she had to step back, realizing her campaign had no traction, then Paris, all of a sudden, she wasn't as critical of him. She didn't believe all women. She didn't feel like his racial history was that problematic. So I thought it was interesting. It was a little bit shocking, but then again, is there anything that surprises us about the Democrats anymore? I really have to remember that when I'm observing their actions.
Well, those are great observations, Stacey, and I think a lot of us felt the same way. You know, Representative Jones, you have stated emphatically that Joe Biden has a history of racism and bigotry, and that Kamala Harris has put her own personal ambitions over the interests of the Black community. What was your reaction to Joe Biden's VP choice?
Well, when I saw that image, I literally saw a bouquet, or maybe I should say I didn't see a bouquet. I saw a kudzu and what else? Kudzu and some other kind of crazy vine. Joe Biden picked her because that's who the left believes is going to be the president of the United States. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to look at, and that's very serious. She fakes right, but she runs left, and she has a habit of doing that. That's why I say she's a flip-flopper. Again, she fakes right and runs left. Mm-hmm. She is dangerous. How can she support someone who she believes is a racist? How can she support someone who she believes is a rapist? Because she said she believed the women. She said he was anti-busing. He worked with segregationists. Again, that shows you that she is more serious about herself and her blind political ambitions than she is about the American people. That is dangerous.
That is very dangerous. You know, Leo, you have described Kamala Harris as a phony, and you issued a critical warning to Joe Biden, and you said that she can't be trusted. What exactly do you mean when you say that she cannot be trusted as Joe Biden's running mate?
You know, the reason why, Paris, I'm supporting President Trump, because he puts country first. Yeah. He puts country first over party. Kamala Harris put Kamala Harris first over everyone else. She is unfit to be a vice president. She's unfit to be a senator. She only focuses on what's in her best interest. I agree with Vern. She shifts left and right, but she's extreme left. I.e., look at her plan for a single payer tax health plan, where she wants to take away quality private insurance that you like, that you want. Right. Kamala Harris is only out for herself. And the dangerous part about it is she plays this game of pretending to care. She only cares about herself. And that's what makes her dangerous. She's in a position now where she's one step away, one heartbeat away, God forbid they won't win, to the White House. And that's her ultimate goal. All about Kamala Harris. And that's why she's dangerous.
You know, each of you have alluded to this, but I want to go to you, Stacey, in particular. Switching gears to draw attention to the fact that Kamala Harris once said that she believed women like Tara Reade, who have accused Joe Biden of assault. What are your thoughts on the fact that she believed Tara Reade and others, but is now standing side by side proudly with Joe Biden?
So this is a great opportunity for Kamala Harris. I mean, can we just acknowledge the fact that she is probably the most aware person in America right now of the state of his cognitive decline and the opportunity that he presents as basically a figurehead running for an office. And I'm saying that as someone who I have said many times, I want to go on the record right here on Trump Talk. Look, this is a place for me to be very clear. I would never put a member of my family in the position that Joe Biden is in. My husband or my father, if they had political aspirations, but had served 47 years in politics, and all of a sudden there's an opportunity to run for the presidency a third time, that would not be the moment where I saw them declining and mentally unable to really handle the rigors of that and say, let's do this anyway. I would not participate in that. So I have a real problem with what's happening to Joe Biden on the personal side. Yeah. And I oppose him in every way, but he's still a human being, and his family should not be allowing him to go through this. That being said, he's now the presidential nominee for a major political party in this country. And Kamala Harris has made allegations against him that basically say he's unfit. Anyone that has the kind of allegations that are made against him, in her opinion, I'm not saying the allegations are true. I happen to believe that you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But then again, I'm over here on the right. I think if you have allegations, they should be investigated if they're found to be credible. And if you are convicted, then we have another conversation. But if we go by the rules set by the Democrats, he's already guilty because you have to believe all women. So where does that put Kamala? If you are a woman on the left, you believe that you must believe all women, and you're standing with a man, his allegations against him, most specifically the Tara Reade allegations, which is the first time she kind of pulled back. When those allegations were presented, it was much more recent, the presentation of them, which meant that she had to kind of calculate. Okay, now we're closer to this decision. He's going to choose a VP nominee. So she held off on saying she believed Tara Reade, but she said she believed everyone else. So it's half dozen of one, six of the other with her. She does not have a leg to stand on this. So it's not just her credibility that's at issue. It's the fact that she's power seeking. To me, the worst thing in the world is to do a job simply for power. Now, if you contrast that with our president, this is a man who had all the power. He had all the jets and the Maybachs, the planes, the helicopters, the 155,000 square foot houses, 3 or 4 times the size of the White House. He was living that life, living that dream, and everyone loved him. Left, right, up, down, agnostic, everyone loved him. He put all of that aside to serve Americans. And in 3 years, he's done more than Joe Biden has done in 47. Now, I don't want to get into too much detail here, but that's almost longer than I've been alive, okay? He's been there doing nothing. President Trump has been there 3 years. He's been killing it. Even before he was in office, he was shifting policy through his conversation on Twitter. So what does that mean for Kamala? She's there for the mansion. She's there for the people's house. She's there for the ability to tell us your kids have to shower with a person of the opposite sex because of their gender identity. She's there to tell moms where their kids can go to school, where their tax dollars follow their kids. She's there to tell people in the suburbs, you need low-income housing in your single-family zoned neighborhoods. She's there to tell us not just how to live, but how not to live. She's there to take away opportunity zones. She's there to take away opportunities from inner city residents who are just now climbing out of really situations where their kids aren't getting a good education by taking away their school choice options. So on every metric, it's the power seeking on the one hand and the control on the other. She's not a great choice for us, but I think she's laid bare why she's doing this. And to me, that is one of the most important considerations. When you look at why someone is doing something, it's their intentions, it's their motives. She's shown us it's for power only. It's not for the good of the people. It's not for her love of America. It's for her own personal self-interest. And that to me is pretty disgusting, Harris.
You know, Leo and Representative Jones, I want to get your reaction to this clip I'm about to show of Senator Kamala Harris from the debates. So take a look.
It's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing.
Kamala Harris was once a staunch critic of Joe Biden. What changed? Leo, let's start with you.
You know, first of all, I'm a lawyer, and I saw a lawyer up there with a script, and she played it well. Give her an Academy Award. She tried to dress down Joe Biden. I do agree with one fact. Joe Biden is a racist. Joe Biden got 47 years of hanging out with Klans member Robert K. Byrd. But what you see here is a total turnaround.
All the Democrats do. If you go look up their history, just go look up their history.
She told the national audience that Joe Biden is a racist, yet she's okay standing next to him as the number 2 seat. That tells you she's a power seeker. That's all she's interested in, is ultimate power. Now, let's be clear. Joe Biden has stated in the last couple of months, and this is one of the reasons why I'm voting for Trump, hands down, that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Correct.
That's insulting. It's condescending. It's an attack not only on blacks, but everyone. Then he doubles down with an idiotic statement that says black people think alike. I don't think so, because there's 4 blacks here on this program that are going to vote for Donald J. Trump. Excuse me.
Right.
So then a so-called 100 so-called black leaders, I didn't vote for a black leader, wrote a letter saying, you better pick someone black. Guess who they picked? They picked a person, in my opinion, who is seeking power only. And let me be clear for everyone to know this on the Trump network. Kamala Harris was a disaster as an attorney general. Pardon?
You're from California. You know this firsthand.
I know her. I just did a podcast on her. She's a nightmare. She went after so-called pot smokers, but she let drug dealers get off. She didn't seek the death penalty for a cop killer. Even Dianne Feinstein disagreed with her. And what is more insulting is that she was under federal orders to release prisoners whose rights were violated, and she ignored them. She is just a bad seed. But like Stacey said, she'll do anything for power. The sad part about it is you cannot believe anything that comes out of Kamala Harris's mouth. Nothing, except that Joe Biden is a racist.
Go do your history on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, at least. If you want to take it a step further, go look up the Clintons and go look up Obama. You know, I think he was one of the biggest failures of our presidential history, because he made promises to our black communities and never followed through with one. He never made one crime bill ever. Go look it up. It's just facts. The man never kept a promise to us, to all of us, to his people.
So, Representative Jones, you know, you saw the video clip. You've heard what Leo has to say. What are your thoughts as an elected official at how she once was a critic and now she's his biggest fan? You know, how does that speak to the issues of integrity, especially in the public sphere?
Well, that's a prime example, again, of a flip-flopper. She's the great pretender. She pretends to be one thing, and then she's another. She fakes left, then she goes right. She goes right, then she fakes left. That's her whole persona. Just look at it. And she will do anything to be elected president. It's about her political blind ambitions. And another example, how can she say again that Joe Biden, she believed those women who accused Joe Biden of sexual assault? If that's the case, more than anything else, these voters, Democratic voters, need to be concerned, because if she were a prosecutor, wouldn't she prosecute Joe Biden because she believes in women? She would prosecute him. Now think about that. And this lady who would be the president, and I'm saying she's going to be the president because we know Joe Biden is just really just Joe. His handlers just have him there to get through the door. But think about her in the Attorney General's office, the influence she's going to have, who she's going to pick, that person's ideology. They're going to enforce what she wants them to enforce because she's coming from a prosecutorial background. So the danger of that is that you're going to see this Justice Department go crazy. You're going to see people just automatically found guilty by just words and not even evidence. And you're in a situation where you're caught up in the judiciary system. That woman is very dangerous. I applaud the Democrats for selecting a person of color, but I don't applaud why they did it. They did it because they know that Donald J. Trump has done more to earn the black vote than any Democrat or Republican presidential candidate or president in the past 40 years. And they see that blacks are being swayed. So they're scared. This is another game. They're putting her up there, but the minute, if she were to get elected, then black people will be thrown off the bus again and will be right back where we are because she is led by liberals who have a whole new different agenda. And it's not about black people.
Vernon's right.
He's right.
Vernon, you are right. They do. These Democrats have a.
This is why I'm uploading these videos. You know, I'm just sharing my platform because I believe in letting my black brothers and sisters tell their own side and story. They don't need white people to save them. You know what I mean? They're my brothers and sisters. They're my friends. They're people I love equally as I do everyone else. So I just want to share these messages because I've done my research. I've done my research on both. All I have is time, dude. I'm telling you. I used to be a Democrat until I learned I could love gay people and I could, you know, that it meant I wasn't racist because I was always told, you know, anyways. So once I learned I could be a Republican and that it wasn't a racist thing, I walked away from Democrats. You know, I believed in pot smoking. You know, you want to fucking sell weed and smoke or whatever. You know, I believed in some of the Democratic things, but my heart is a Republican because I really don't see color and I wouldn't use them the way that I've seen Democrats use our black communities and never do a damn thing for them. It's just, you know, this is why I walked away in my 20s from being a Democrat, and I'm a proud Republican.
Brand new agenda.
And I'm going to vote for Trump again.
It is a radical, dangerous agenda that it's going to be rejected by Black Americans and by American people all across the country. But we'll be right back after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
People are really looking for something. I think you have to go out and really work hard.
You've sort of become like a folk hero.
There are no better builders than we have in New York, and a big percentage of that is black and minority folks, and I'm very proud of it.
I say to the African-American people that have to suffer, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it.
The black unemployment rate, the lowest in history.
1.3 million jobs, more than 1.3 million jobs added for African Americans. You talk about the First Step Act, thousands of people released from jail, 90% of them being African American.
And I want to thank our incredible president.
Funding for historically black colleges and universities. Opportunity zones, almost 9,000 of those in marginalized areas. This president has done more for African Americans in a matter of 2 to 3 years than any president in my lifetime.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Black Voices for Trump Online Real Talk. Again, I'm Paris Denard, and I'm joined by my friend Stacey Washington, Representative Vernon Jones, and the Leo Terrell. The Leo Terrell. We all know that's how we have to pronounce it. We know that Joe Biden wrote the 1994 crime bill, which was responsible for putting hundreds of thousands of young black men he called predators in prison. This terrible bill is something that Kamala Harris once was very vocal about. Watch this clip.
That 1994 crime bill, it did contribute to mass incarceration in our country. It encouraged and was the first time that we had a federal 3 strikes law. It funded the building of more prisons in the states.
My friend got Measure 11. He got strike 3 times and went to prison for life. And he was Hispanic. One of my lifelong friends spent more time, he's still there, spent more time in prison than he ever did out. We were about 14 in 1994, so yeah.
You know, when I watched that clip, I just laughed at the hypocrisy of all this. Like, the American people are seeing through the hypocrisy of Kamala Harris. Representative Jones, as an elected official, you have seen firsthand the positive impact of President Trump's criminal justice reform and how it has really positively impacted our country and especially the black community. Can you tell us how Joe Biden's decisions, his policy decisions, have completely destroyed countless black lives?
Well, when I look at Kamala Harris, I'll use the words of Ronald Reagan. There you go again. She is doing that again. She's flip-flopping. She is against this crime bill. And now she's coming back saying, now I'm going to embrace this man. I'm going to support this man. I believe in this man, so I'm with him. Well, it's because he selected her to be VP. I don't know who put the most black men in jail, her or Joe Biden. She put over 127,000 black and brown men in jail when she was a prosecutor, when she was attorney general. So here we go again, thinking that we're electing someone that has the interests of black people, when in fact, there is no interest in black people. They're right. They may have the lockdown on the black vote, but I would say more than anything, they have the black vote locked up, maybe not necessarily locked down. And Leo would agree, coming from California, he's seen her firsthand up front as a trial lawyer, knowing the detriment that she has brought to the black community and the brown community.
Right. You know, Stacey, President Trump's policies stand in stark contrast to that of Joe Biden's. Can you explain how President Trump's accomplishments have improved the lives of black Americans throughout our country?
Well, and you know what, Paris, I'm so excited to get to talk about it because one of my favorite things that I get to do with President Trump, unlike some other candidates in the past that I've supported due to them being next in line, President Trump has a lot of great things that I can say about him that you can actually go and Google and look up. You can go find the information that I'm sharing and verify it for yourself. He has accomplishments, concrete accomplishments. And I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have a whole lot of hats that I wear, but I am also a goal setter, and I like checking boxes off. I like crossing things off my list, and I like looking back and saying, you know, we had a good year, or maybe we could improve in this area. And we even do it at Thanksgiving. We go around the table and we talk about things that we're grateful for, and then at Christmas we do it again because we want to acknowledge the accomplishments and things that we've been blessed to be able to do. And President Trump is the very same way. I really identify with him in that aspect. And so I just want to hit off on 3 things. The first one, criminal justice reform. First Step Act, he freed black people. So instead of incarcerating them, overly incarcerating blacks for crimes that really you're supposed to serve a set amount and you get this whopping sentence that basically ends your life. You're in jail for 27 years for something small while rapists go to jail for 6 months. President Trump undid all of that. He released people and he changed the trajectory of hundreds of thousands of lives by doing that. The second thing, he wants to bring our troops home from overseas in these endless, nonstop pointless, useless Middle Eastern entanglements. I'm a veteran. I'm married to a veteran. I'm a fourth generation military veteran. I believe that when you get an order from the commander in chief, you head out, you ride out with everyone else in your unit, and you go win that thing for America. But if we are in the Middle East and Afghanistan for 17 years, we've spent $8 trillion there, thousands of American lives, and we have nothing to show for it. So the question that I have for Democrats, Republicans, I don't care what political party you're in, is what are we still doing there? Mr. Trump, President Trump, CEO Trump, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces Trump is the first president in my lifetime to ever say, what are we doing there? And then actually do something about it. He's bringing those men and women home. When we have a job to go do, nobody does it like the U.S. Armed Forces. Amen. But if we're there for nothing, as President Trump has said, bring those people home. Take care of them. Give them what we promised them under the Veterans Administration. Bring them home so they can prepare for a real engagement that we can actually go fight and win. And then the third thing, and I have to split it in two, but it's the same pot, religious freedom and abortion. Anybody who tries as hard as they can for the rest of their life can't touch President Trump on defunding Planned Parenthood, standing for life, and standing for religious freedom. Now, I could go into opportunity zones. I mean, I'm a talk show host. If you give me the time, I will run down every single accomplishment that President Trump has made because I know them just like I know this kitchen and I know that stove and I know everything in my house. I know his accomplishments. But I'll leave it there. And I want to tease people who are watching this, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Go look up what I've said. Go look up the opportunity zones. Find out which ones are in your city. Find out who's funding those. Find out how they're impacting the lives of people who live in those opportunity zones. Find out about the troops coming home. Ask about the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Look up all of the information on the religious freedom. See how he's traveled to the SCOTUS over and over and over again on our behalf, defending us, working for us, being our chief executive. Then come at me. I'm here for the conversation, but his accomplishments are too numerous for us to go into right now. I just gave you a few. Look up the rest for yourself.
Well, Stacey, you did a very good job of pointing many of the president's accomplishments. You know, just this week, the president brokered a peace deal between Israel and the UAE. I mean, when you talk about his acknowledgement of the fact that we need to end these wars, President Trump, in the middle of all the things that have been going on, was able to bring peace in the Middle East with an agreement between the
and they calling him a dictator and a war president, and they're just so foolish. They don't even know what they're talking about. Just like these people, just like me. I've done my research. I've watched this man for the last 3.5 years. I'm into politics. I've been watching this my whole life, paying attention. You know, and to watch him be so disrespected and called all the names that he's actually not. He's not any of these bad things people say. You know, he's rough around the edges. He don't play on our feelings. He just gives it to us straight. I respect that.
Israel and the UAE. That's the type of leadership that we have. And you mentioned opportunity zones. They're not just in one city or in California or just in Georgia or just in Virginia. Everywhere. They're in every state in the country, every territory, including the District of Columbia. This president has a record of achievement that is unmatched. But you know, when we look at this campaign that we're in right now, the problem just isn't with Joe Biden. Kamala Harris has a terrible record on criminal justice in California that Leo was talking about. She decided, as was previously stated, not to seek the death penalty against someone who murdered a police officer. Or she decided not to seek the death penalty against an illegal MS-13 gang member who shot at a father and his 2 sons. This is the legacy of Kamala Harris. You know, but the interesting thing is she still threatened to put parents of kids who didn't go to school in jail and offer plea deals to violent criminals. Leo, I'm just flabbergasted at the fact that Kamala Harris could do this. What are your thoughts on Kamala Harris and some of the things that we just mentioned just now?
Well, you know what? It reminds me of the great debate when Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard undressed Kamala Harris. When she told Kamala Harris about criminal justice record at the AG, how she violated federal order.
Oh no, it's getting all messed up. Hold on.
Release people in prison who were in crimes that was found not their responsibility. Kamala Harris incarcerated more black men, as many as Joe Biden did with his crime bill. She was a very, very bad AG. Biggest problem that with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they were going to create a problem for black people. Just because you have a D on your name, that doesn't mean you're good for black people. As Stacey mentioned, Donald Trump has done more for black Americans than Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Kamala Harris. In addition to what Stacey mentioned, what about funding historical black colleges, as Donald Trump's done? What about the idea that when we're talking about criminal justice reform, Donald Trump signed an executive order to try to improve the police reform,
Right.
and importantly, Tim Scott tried to submit legislation in the Senate to reform police.
Right.
But guess who stopped it? Two Democrats, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. The Democrats don't want to acknowledge what Donald Trump has done on the reform. Kamala Harris has a record she cannot run on regarding her record regarding mass incarceration of black men, focusing on small crime, not big crime,
Right.
that went on during her tenure. That is her legacy as a failed attorney general.
Well, Leo, there's no doubt that a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris America would be disastrous for the black community. Vernon, did you want to jump in there on something?
Yes, I wanted to say, just look at the records. It's right there in front of you. Look at what Kamala Harris did when she was a prosecutor, when she was attorney general. When I mentioned over 120,000 black and brown men that she jailed, that is real. That is not fake news. Look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden wrote a crime bill that literally destroyed a generation of black men. Look at during the Obama administration, he had 8 years. He could have reformed the prison system. He could have redeemed himself. There was not even a discussion about it. Jack Johnson's family,
Right.
they petitioned the administration, Obama and Biden, for a pardon of something that you and I both know and everybody know was just foolishness.
Yep.
They wouldn't do it. Miss Johnson, Alice Johnson, first-time offender, nonviolent, didn't have any drugs on her, made a phone call, and she received about 42 years. Twice, and been a model inmate, she appealed to the Obama and Biden administration, by the way, with a black attorney general, and she was denied her sentence being commuted. Now here comes Donald Trump in just 3.5 years. Didn't waste time on giving the Jack Johnson family the pardon that he deserved. Didn't waste time on looking at Mrs. Johnson. Said, wait a minute, this lady has 20-something years to go, more to serve, and she's been a model inmate when she shouldn't have been here anytime because the time did not match the crime. It was senseless. And then he went a step further to come up with the First Step Act, he and Senator Tim Scott, where they literally evaluate the situation, say, wait a minute, this is nonsense. Let's start to release these people so they can go back to their families. But one important thing too that nobody talks about, how many black men died in prison from those lifelong sentences that died that never made it back to their families?
To have the second chance.
How many to have a second chance? How many died in there? So what Joe Biden did, not only locked them away, but he even took the life of someone's father, someone's brother, someone's son. Joe Biden has it all over his hands. And how can black people, how can they, other than just been literally voting because you were told to do this as you were growing up? If he has a D beside his name, if David Dukes ran today with a D beside his name, black people would vote for him.
Well, Representative Jones, what you just highlighted and the points that Leo were making was the fact that the destructive policies that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris presided over, put forth, and were proud to put on the black community had real really bad consequences and impact on real people, real lives, real families, real communities. And we have to keep that in mind when we're looking in November on who was standing on the side of the Black community, fighting for us, supporting us, encouraging, empowering, and freeing us from horrific criminal justice system that was stacked against us. That was Donald Trump doing that, helping the Black community. And when you look at the records, you all have pointed out beautifully the fact that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden had policies that led to the destruction of the Black family, Black generational wealth, and the Black community. We could go on and on about this, but I've got to take a commercial break. So we'll be right back after this.
Thanks to President Trump, criminal justice reform gave nonviolent offenders a second chance at life and the American dream.
He has given $100 million to HBCUs for scholarships and research.
And he has done all this for us in less than one term. Imagine what he can achieve with 4 more years.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Online Real Talk. Again, I'm Pierre Sinard, and I'm joined by my friend Stacey Washington, Leo Terrell, and Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones. Listen, Joe Biden may try to deny that he's for defunding the police, but he said it outright that he would redirect funding away from our nation's law enforcement, and we know Kamala Harris shares that exact same belief. She supports Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti's decision to cut $150 million from the city's police force. Representative Jones, can you just help explain how detrimental it would be to our nation's safety and to the Black community in particular if law enforcement were to lose their desperately needed funding?
Well, first of all, I've had opportunity to command a large police department. You never defund your police department. You increase funding. Most police officers, when they get hired, they go through a psychological exam when they're being hired. After that point, they don't go through that. And if you want to talk about helping the police department, you talk about police reform, not reduction in resources.
Correct.
Officers should go through a psychological exam every 2 to 3 years. Why? You put a guy out there and he's been out there on the road for 4 years, 5 years. It's a mess out there. And then all of a sudden he's involved in a shooting. Well, you don't know where he is in his mind. You don't know if he's burned out. He should be put somewhere else. Give more money for psychological exams. When our men and women who serve in that uniform, when they go overseas and fight in Iraq or Afghanistan, when they come back, they don't get a mental assessments. They don't get training to transition back into civilian life. They're coming back from where, hey, they're in a shoot zone. You're there to try to just survive. When they come back here, they put them right back on the police department. They need help. Let's look at other types of non-lethal weapons like the bowler wrap that literally sends out a fishing line that wraps that person's legs up and they can't move. I know because I've been shot with one, and it helps. We should be, look at training. Training is only 2 hours on an average. And I use the state of Georgia for de-escalation and another 2 hours for use of force. There should be more time dedicated to training for those two particular top areas. And so this just goes to show you, these mayors are so far left. When you don't support your police officers, you're literally out of your mind. You're calling for chaos. I've had to deal with shootings on both sides where my officers were involved in shootings. But what I had to do, I had to meet with those families. I had to hear their and feel their pain. I understand they lost a loved one. But at the same time, there was protocol in place. When there was a police shooting, I had someone there from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, someone from the district attorney's office, the police chief had to be there, and the medical examiner. I wanted different eyes on it, and then it was packaged, thoroughly investigated, and given to the district attorney to make that decision. But I also had to deal with police officers losing their lives. I lost 2 Black police officers in one night, and I had to go to their young families, young wives, and their children, their parents, and feel and hear their pain too. Look, you get rid of the bad ones, but to paint the police department as a whole as bad, you want to send a social worker to a 911 domestic call? Who's going to protect a social worker? That's one of the most dangerous calls there is. And so we need to be giving more funds to the police department, not defunding them. And you're losing the morale and you're losing the attention of officers. Now they're afraid to even enforce the law because they may be indicted. And let me tell you too about that. When the officer used that gun, it should be in the minute, or should be only used when it's to protect themselves, their life is at stake, or the public. But do you want an officer trying to determine whether or not I should use my weapon? I've been trained under these circumstances because that officer's afraid that he may get indicted and go to jail. The government, Democrats, just put that officer's life at stake. And when you want to talk about all this thing about police shootings, Black Lives Matter, and I know I'm going a little far here, but it only matters, seem like, if a white officer shoot a black person. But when black people kill black people, including 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 5, 6, 7-year-old black children, and when black people kill black police officers, where is Black Lives Matter?
Yep.
Is it nowhere matter? It's crazy.
Nowhere. And Leo, I know you feel very passionate about that issue, especially the Black Lives Matter organization. I've read many of your op-eds, which have been very powerful, and I appreciate your voice on this. You know, when you were speaking, Representative Jones, I was thinking about the fact that noted resident of Georgia, I think in the Atlanta area, Tyler Perry, has recently come out very strongly saying that defunding the police is not the right thing. We need to be supporting the police because of the things that have been happening in the Atlanta area. So in cities where police departments have been defunded, we are seeing, as you mentioned, black children murdered, crime rise at exponentially high rates in these Democrat-led cities. There is a complete sense of chaos and destruction.
It's just the truth. It may not sound pretty, and it may hurt your feelings, and it may sound the wrong way, but it's just the truth. I live in a Democrat-run state and city, and it is god-awful here. And our poor police, we got amazing police. We have an amazing black police chief, Chuck Lavelle, incredible man, and he loves us all equally. He's got a good heart, and you listen to the man speak, and you can feel his passion for the safety of all of us. All of us. That's how it should be. You keep saying Black Lives Matter, you're separating from all of us. And that in itself is racism.
And Black Lives Matter leaders say the lawless rioting is justified.
No.
Leo, what happens when we start losing our police officers who defend and uphold the rule of law? What happens to our nation?
Yeah, when we lose the good ones.
You know what? I'll tell you right now, this is so emotional and so powerful and so important for the black community to hear. First of all, as I said, Black Lives Matter only care if there's a white officer in a black shooting. And these democratic cities in which chaos is going on as we speak affect people of color.
Correct.
Black folks are being hurt. Black on black crime. The only defense for black community is law enforcement. How do I know that? I have a sister in law enforcement for 16 years. I want to make sure black people hear this. 98% of police officers are great. They protect us 24/7 at 2 a.m. The 1 or 2%, yes, we need to have reform to get them out.
Yep.
But as our cities, these democratic cities that are burning, where is the democratic outcry? Where's Joe Biden? Where's Kamala Harris? Crickets. Donald Trump is the man who is responding to this, offering assistance, turning it down. Solely because he got that big R in front of his name. Solely because they don't want to acknowledge that he's on the right track. He is the law and order president. I like that term, law and order president. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, total silence. We need law and order. And I got news for you, Democrats. You know you believe in law and order. You need to vote for the law and order president, and that's Donald Trump. Not Joe Biden, not Kamala Harris. This is hurting our democratic cities. And one last thing. In these democratic cities where there's lawlessness, that nothing's going on, no protection for our people. The schools are decaying as well because these teacher unions have hijacked the public school system, and Black Lives Matter has basically dominated these democratic cities. They're in the pocket of the Democratic Party, and we need to stop this.
Please help us.
Leo, you are absolutely correct. We do need to stop this. And one way we can do that is in November. Stacey, we know that the Biden-Harris ticket will result in open borders. And I know you care about this issue very much. They both are in favor of sanctuary cities and have repeatedly chosen to protect violent criminals opposed to protecting American citizens. Can you talk about the dangers of the Biden-Harris stance on immigration?
So, you know what? I first have to say that Leo and Vernon, they so wrapped up that last issue, but it's deeply connected to the issue that you just broached.
Yeah.
Law enforcement is supposed to cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and that connection and cooperation nets a safety, it's a zone of safety around our southern border that prevents MS-13 and other bad actors who embed themselves in the population of economic migrants who are seeking to come here to work, and those people end up committing the crimes.
Correct.
So my father's in law enforcement. He actually retired from 2 careers in law enforcement. So I grew up with him coming in and tossing his, service revolver onto the shiny dining room table, and my mom yelling from the kitchen, "Get that gun off my table." And then he would look at me and my sister and smirk and then put the gun in their bedroom. And I grew up knowing that this was work that had to be done. Without my father and other military police officers, our base that we lived on could not be safe. And they served other protective functions as well off base, and they also cooperated with civilian authorities in Germany where I grew up. So this is my life that we're talking about here when you connect law enforcement and then talk about immigration. I happen to live in the suburbs of St. Louis. We have a huge hotspot crime problem where you can look at the research that's been done by many organizations, even some fake news, as we would call them, have come here and spent 18 months investigating. Why is the per capita shooting rate, murder rate in St. Louis so high? Well, it's because we have MS-13 waging turf wars with local gangs over who gets to deal drugs on certain corners in the city of St. Louis. So it's a fantastic place to live. We love it here. But if you go to certain corners, certain areas of our city, it's like Honduras. It's like some third world hellhole. And the reason that this exists is because we don't have a sealed southern border. So President Trump not only wants to build a wall, but he wants to make immigration, lawful immigration, the only way that you get into this country, because that protects people like you and me, the people on this call, the people watching this call, and so many more. Like I can't stress enough how much illegal immigration actually impacts every single American. $132 billion a year, that's last year's number, we spend on illegal immigration. And you can find a map online that shows how much your state is actually spending on illegal immigration. President Trump wants to stop all that. Those funds going to fighting illegal immigration and funding illegal aliens who live in the country should be going to our homeless veterans, our inner city kids trapped in horrible failing schools, and all like a whole host of other areas of American life. Those are American dollars that should be taking care of American citizens. And President Trump has been fighting since day one, not only to make this an issue that people can know and understand, but to make it possible for our children to drive around safely. 10% of all drunk driving accidents are illegal aliens. I mean, think about that. 10%. We could reduce the incidence of drunk driving, the accidents that come from that, by 10% if we ended our illegal alien problem. So do I have sympathy for people who want to live here? Of course I do. I've been all over the world. I've been to Saudi Arabia, Russia back when it was the USSR, Paris 4 times, Spain 4 times, Austria, you name it. I've been everywhere. There is no place on the planet like this. There's a reason why 1 billion people, 1/7 of the population of this globe, if given a choice, would claim U.S. citizenship. It's fantastic here, but that is irrelevant when you consider what we can do. We are only one country, 330 million strong, and we have to take care of our own first. It's the same as me saying, I'm going to go out and take care of other people and leave my own family to languish and not be taken care of. That would be worse than an unbeliever. That's what God's word says. That is not the way we are supposed to govern ourselves. And when we do things in the proper order, taking care of our citizens first, allowing lawful immigration, which we currently take in over 1.2 million people a year lawfully. That's our legal immigration system. If we take care of our southern border as the president wants to do, if we seal that southern border with a wall as he wants to do, if we have proper enforcement of our current existing laws, no new laws, just the current ones. If we vet individuals who want to come here as refugees and as, there are different mechanisms by which you can come to the country. And these horrible H-1B1 visas, the visas that allow foreigners to come in and work for $12 an hour in a job that should pay $22, that was previously staffed by an American who was forced to train their replacement before being let go. End all of that. Do we need workers in the agricultural industry? Of course we do. But do we want to bring them in illegally? Do we want to reward bad behavior by giving jobs? And DACA, the president tried to undo that executive order. The Supreme Court ruled against him. Now every executive order he writes is the law. I love it. I mean, it was a tough price to pay, but let's do it. So the key here, Paris, is that he's on the right side of history, the law, and the American people when it comes to illegal immigration. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden want to open our southern border and obliterate any form of citizenship that we currently enjoy. And that is something that is so critical and so crucial. If you're a one-issue voter, as I am, mine is abortion. But if I was a two-issue voter, immigration would be right there at the top. We have to honor our current laws, and that goes along with what we just discussed. We have to honor the law enforcement that actually protects and serves us. We have to honor our judicial system, our Anglo-Saxon system of government, and we have to honor our immigration law and the apparatus that supports it. Sanctuary cities are an abomination. Kamala and Joe support that, and the president opposes it. I could go on, but clearly...
You said enough.
Awesome.
Well,
Beautiful speaker.
Friends, after listening to what Stacey just laid out to us, there's no doubt that we need your help to defend our great country against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all of these radical Democrats that have no intention of improving or empowering the lives of Black Americans with their destructive policies. The stakes could not be any higher this November. We need all of you patriots at home watching us right now to join our fight to help re-elect President Donald J. Trump. Here's how you can get involved. Download the new groundbreaking Trump 2020 app right now, which is available on Apple and Android. To stay in contact with us, please text WOKE to 88022. And if you or your friends, family, or neighbors want to be involved in our fight to re-elect President Trump, please visit armyfortrump.com to sign up and follow Black Voices for Trump on social media as well. But listen, if you are already signed up and working hard to help Team Trump, we all just want to say thank you so very much. You know, I wish we could keep going, but it is time for everyone's final reactions to this clip of the phony opportunist, Kamala Harris. So take a look.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
Well, I think it's pretty clear what Kamala Harris has just said and how she feels about helping the Black community. Stacey, real quick, let's start with you. What's your reaction?
That's the same thing Obama said. And look what he did for Black people. Nada. He helped every other coalition group for the Democrats except Black people. He specifically stated that he wasn't the president of just Black people. He was the president of all the people. And then he proceeded to help everybody but Black people. Now listen, I'm not for the demographic box victimhood thing that the Democrats have. I don't think we should elect presidents based on their skin color, nor the vice presidential nominees. I don't think we should make announcements like that. But since that's the game, the board that's been set, the game we're playing, the Democrats dominate the media, and that's how we're supposed to live, how dare she say she's not going to help Black people and expect our vote? And I will say this, it's transactional. Anytime you're paying for something, you expect to get something back. Your vote is a payment. You are saying to that person, I expect what you promised on the campaign stump for you to do it in those 2 years in the House of Representatives, 6 in the Senate, or 4 for the presidency. And if you don't get what you paid for, you vote for somebody else the next time. Democrats have been getting the Black vote at over 90% for 109 years in Milwaukee, 66 years in St. Louis, and so many other decades in every other major city in this country. So my question is, what are you paying for, Black America? With this president, one vote has gotten you more in 3 years than the Democrats have given you in 100 and some years. Come on. So to nutshell it, what are you going to get from someone who's telling you before you even give you her vote? You give the vote to her. She's telling you she's not going to give you anything. President Trump is not he's not running on giving blacks anything. He's running on giving every American, regardless of their ethnic background, everything that the Constitution protects, plus righting the wrongs that so many Democrats and a few Republicans have made over the past 5 decades. There's nothing more precious than someone who actually wants to work for you. So that's President Trump. It's not those other two.
Final thoughts from Representative Jones.
I'll be brief because I want to allow Leo to have a little more time. Again, who is she referring to when she says, I'm not going to just help my people? Who are her people? One day she's this and one day she's that. I have no idea. That's what makes her dangerous.
Yeah.
And for closing arguments,
You know what?
real.
Kamala Harris gives my profession a bad name. She's shifty, as Vernon said. She will say and do anything. This is why people hate lawyers, because she has basically said, I'm not gonna do anything for you. You should just vote for me because you're a Democrat or because I'm playing black right now, playing the race card. So it's meaningless. But I think blacks under 40 are reading through the Democratic rhetoric, and I think they're now seeing the light. And I think young blacks are saying, no, we're not going to stay on the plantation. We're going to vote for somebody who does something for us, and that right now is Donald J. Trump and the Republican Party.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with what you just said, Leo. And I want to thank you, Leo. I want to thank you, Representative Jones. And of course, I want to thank our co-chair for the Black Voices for Trump Advisory Board, Stacey Washington, for joining me this evening. We would also like to thank all of our amazing supporters for watching at home. I know it has been hard for a lot of you because of this virus from China, but with President Trump, the great American comeback is on the horizon. Remember, with Team Trump, the best is yet to come.
Amen.
We will see you again next time, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. God bless America.